Avasarai Ape Hamdruane. Good afternoon, everyone. I cordially welcome you all for the 12th lecture of the short course on cultural linkages towards Asian ideology. Today, we are focusing on the influence of Buddhism on Asian culture. The program for today is such that the lecture is scheduled to be for 45 minutes with a short break of 5 minutes, followed by a question and answer session. May I have the honor of introducing our guest lecturer, Venerable Madagoda Abetissa Tero, Professor in Pali at the Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Sri Lanka. Our esteemed guest holds a PhD in Buddhist Studies from the University of Delhi, a Master of Philosophy from the University of Kelaniya, a Master of Arts from the University of Kelaniya, a Bachelor of Arts with honors in Pali, and a postgraduate diploma in Buddhist Studies from the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. Venerable Professor Madagoda Abetissa Tero has many years of experience in university level teaching and academia in Buddhist studies and Pali, starting from being a visiting lecturer at the University of Kelaniya in 2003 till being a senior lecturer at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura at present. In addition to this, the Venerable Professor has held important roles in academic, community, and national service. Our respected guest has contributed vastly to the fields of Pali and Buddhist studies by publishing a large number of books, articles, edits, research articles in peer-reviewed and other journals, conference papers, and articles in newsletters. Venerable Professor Madagoda Abetissa Tero has been awarded many academic honors and awards, a few of which include the Commonwealth Scholarship for PhD and awards such as the Samayavardhana Award, Vidyalankara Award, Hikkaduwe Sri Simangala Award, and Anagarika Dharmapala Award for highest marks in various subjects at the Maliga Kanda Vidyodaya Pirivena. Venerable Professor Madagoda Abetissa Tero, we are profoundly honored to have you with us here, and we warmly welcome you to deliver this lecture. Avasarai Ape Hamdruane.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Hemanta Premaratne for inviting me to such a deliver such a lecture for this kind of students. I think this is a short course which is conducted in KDU. Cultural linkage towards an Asian ideology. That is the main topic of the short course, the course title. They are with the advice of Dr. Hemanta Premaratne, I have taken one topic. That topic is the influence of Buddhism on Asian culture. The influence of Buddhism on Asian culture. Dr. Hemanta told me our students recently completed the previous lecture and they will be in very tired position now. Even though I would like to conduct my lecture, actually this is not a very long lecture. I can take it as a discussion. At the beginning, before starting the lecture, I like to give you a assignment topic or some question. I think better our students take down this topic. The influence of Buddhism on Asian culture is the topic. My question is, show in what ways Buddhism has been an influential factor for Asian society. That is the question. Once again, show in what ways Buddhism has been an influential factor for Asian society. So after my 45 minutes lecture, if you be able to answer this question, then I think our lecture is successful, and also you will go through the course. First of all, I would like to ask you, I don't know whether you are joining with me or not. If I ask you a question, can you answer one student or somebody? What is Asia? What we call Asia? Can somebody answer me?
Asia is the physical, the name for the geographical landscape of the continent, and we consist in cultural identities, human population and all.
Yes, very good. Actually, Asia is the world's largest and most diverse continent, with around 4 billion people living there today. The diversity of Asia can be presented in different ways, such as socio-political, economic, cultural, ideological, religious beliefs, and other practices. Asia, when we talking about Asia, in Asia, there are a lot of religions. Actually, Asia was the birthplace of those religions. Buddhism, Christianity, Confucianism, Hinduism, Islam, Jainism, Judaism, Shintoism, Sikhism, Taoism, all these isms, including Buddhism, are taken as a birthplace Asia. And also, there are minor religions spreading among small number of population. Sometimes the main religions, they are beliefs, but also they are believing other minor religions too. Like in Sri Lanka, Samandeyo, Ayyanayakadeyo, and others like. Those religions have deeply influenced all aspects of the society. Customs, behavior, cuisine, traditions, art and architecture, music, literature, lifestyle, philosophy, politics, education, social values, and ethics are some of them. So, this Asian region, Asian continent, has its own special culture. As he gave the answer, I would like to ask somebody else, what do you call culture? What is a culture? What is culture? Can somebody answer, please?
Amdurani, it's simply a way of living.
Yes, way of living. Yes, actually, according to Wikipedia, you can take what is culture. Culture is defined as acceptable conduct in society. Acceptable conduct in society. It serves as guideline for behaviors, dress, language, and demeanor in a situation which serves as template for expectation in a social group. Humans acquire culture through the learning process of enculturation and socialization. Here, culture has its own identity. Acceptable conduct means sometimes Western culture, if they see we are taking our food with our hand without a spoon or fork, they would say it is a system of dirty or it is not good behavior. But in our culture, we can do it. In some cultures, you can see there are a lot of we are not expecting such kind of behaviors. However, that's why it is called culture have been defined as acceptable conduct in the society. So we have discussed what is Asia and what is the culture, and now we are coming to what is Buddhism. Buddhism, as you know, it is a religion, even though some don't like to explain Buddhism as a religion, because many scholars like to explain it is as a philosophy. Even though Buddhism plays the both roles, religious role and the philosophical role. So we can understand Buddhism as a religion, and also in popular sense it is a religion and also a philosophy. Here Buddhism is Buddhism have been spread among many countries in Asia. Now some countries now there are no Buddhist followers in some countries. Earlier in up to Middle East, Buddhism was a main religion. Buddhism do not believe the creator God. Even though Buddhism rejects creator God, it is not a pessimistic teaching or optimistic teaching. And also nihilistic teaching is also rejected in Buddhism. The philosophy of Buddha is founded upon dependent origination and the practice of the middle way. The belief that one's action gives good and bad results make the Buddhist teaching highly ethical. So Buddhism, one can say it is a religion, one can say it is a philosophy. That religion has a philosophy, even though it plays both the roles. Buddhism spread among these Asian countries in the period of Asoka. You know Emperor Asoka, earlier he was a Hindu. He became a Buddhist after meeting Venerable Nigroda. After that, he gave a lot of assistance, lot of things to the Sasana. Therefore, many other religious priests, clergy entered to Sasana and they practiced their own practices. Because of that, Buddhism, at that time, the Sasana was seduced by them. Then these monks, those who were in that period, went to King Asoka and asked, because of your patronage, our Sasana now is going to another wrong direction. Please help us to purify this. Then Asoka says, the purification of the Sasana is your duty. Patronage is my duty. So he have given patronage to the Sasana to purify and they purified the Sasana and kept away the wrong viewers, and they thought to spread Buddhism among the countries, not to have such kind of situation again. Then they sent 9 missionaries to 9 countries. You know, Venerable Arahant Mahinda came to Sri Lanka, and also Madhyantika Thera went to Kashmir and Gandhar. Mahadeva Thera went to Mahisamandala, and Rakhita Thera went to Vanavasa, Dhammarakita to Aparantaka, that is in Western India, Mahadhammarakita to Maharashtra, Maharakita to Greek, Machima to Himalayas, Sona and Uttara to Swarnabhumi. It is called Swarnabhumi, Myanmar and Thailand. The traditions. At that during this 19th regional Ashoka's Sanghamitra came to Sri Lanka to establish an order of nuns. That's the very important event Sri Lanka get, not only the Buddhism, but also the culture, which very much planned and very much organized. So when Sanghamitra come to Sri Lanka, in Sri Lanka, we had a culture. That culture, you know, people worshipped the rocks and trees. According to Mahavansa, it is said many did such kind of minor beliefs, believed very minor religions. There, some worshipped the trees and rocks like that. However, when Arahant Mahinda looked at the society, he understood these people can direct according to their beliefs and practices using Buddhism. So, Venerable Arahant Mahinda invited Sanghamitra to bring Bodhi tree. That Bodhi tree worshipping is not something like worshipping a tree. It is symbol of gratitude. It is symbol of gratitude. And also, he said, they are worshipping to the rock. Inside the rock, there is a Buddha statue. Take the hammer and the tool. Take out the Buddha. Then he started to do that. Then finally, there was a Buddha with Mahakaruna and Mahaprajna, the Buddha statues. You can see Samadhi statue, you can see Toluvile statue, you can see other, those great works done by our great people like this way. However, this way, Myanmar also got Buddhism. There are a lot of stories about Myanmarian Buddhism. When Sona and Uttara went there, they had a fear of Yakka, devil fear. Then they wanted to drive away the devil. Sona and Uttara, with their power, drive it away the devil, and still they have a statue that period. They have erected a stone statue there in Myanmar. However, this way, in India, in Sri Lanka, in other places of around India, Buddhism established by the missionary groups. Ittiya Uttiya Sambala Bhadrasala Sumana Samanera Bandu Upasaka, they came to Sri Lanka, and Sona Uttara to there. Then I told others, Majjantika to Greek, others went to Majjimas, Himalayas and other places. All they realized the society and the ideas of those people, those who were living in that areas. With their ideas, they tried to give Buddhism according to the region. I can give you an example. When they went to Swarnabhumi, Myanmar, they had an idea everybody should become a clergy. They had such kind of practice. Even today, they are becoming monks for at least for a short period of time, because they think everybody should become a monk. Even Thailand, even the king become at least for a short period a monk, because those practices, not the practices of the Buddha, but their previous practices. However, when Buddhism went to place, Buddhism established in those areas according to their ideas and their missions. Here, I would like to explain what are the components grabbed by the people from the Buddhism and what they have added to Buddhism. You know, in Sri Lanka, we have taken a lot of Buddhist ideas to our life, even though all the ideas are not Buddhist, coming from Buddhism, because we had a lot of practices before that. In India, sometime you can see when the Buddha became Buddhahood, he also, before becoming Buddhahood, he also followed some practices in Hindu religion. And also he went to teacher, and he collected some good practices what were before him, and all together he composed one religion, one religious practice. Then this is not only a teaching of Buddhism, but teaching of the Buddha, but some teachings are coming from the others also. Mainly to make the society good, to make some great influence from Buddhism to Asian culture. Main ideas of the Buddha have become very influential. One is Kamma theory. You know, according to Buddha, Attana katam papang attana sankilissati. Attana akatam papang attana visujjati. Suddhi asuddhi pacchattan nanyamanyang visode. Attana katam papang attana sankilissati. Whatever evil you do, then you become seduced. And also, attana akatam papang attana visujjati. When you do some good act, then you are purified. Suddhi asuddhi pacchattan. Your purification or your seduce, it is according to you. It is up to you. Nanyo anyang visode, nobody cleans you. Then this is a very important teaching which comes in Buddhism. then the responsibility is yours. Then in our countries which Buddhism was spread, we believe our salvation is on our way. Nobody can take us to the Nibbana or hell. Hell and Nibbana. Nibbana is the final goal. To final goal or hell, nobody takes you. It is up to you. And also, here very important is there hell concept and heaven concept. In Bible, Quran, and Hindu books, also we can see the concept of hell. This hell concept making the society very calm and quiet. Sometimes somebody can say, somebody can see some are doing very bad actions, very bad activities. Sometimes they are harming you. Even though you think it is his problem, after his death, he will go to hell, then that is his responsibility. I should not join to that. If I join with him and if I quarrel with him, I will also accumulate bad things or papa. Then the society automatically calm down because of this thought. And also sometimes you are doing very good activities, but you are poor, you don't get anything like others. Then somebody can say, doing good is useless. No. Then you think, oh, I am doing this good. Because of my previous karma, I am suffering here now. Even though one day I will be happy, I will be in a good place, in a heaven or somewhere. Then hell concept and heaven concept is protecting the society from bad activities. And also people doing good and do not go to quarrel with the others, those who are doing harmful things to somebody. This is also very important. And also, India and Sri Lanka, however, everybody, as you know, Buddhism was born in India. But even though Buddhism was born in India, today we cannot see practical Buddhism in India. Other countries, Buddhism you can see, but India, it is very rare. Very less number of people are practicing Buddhism. What happened there? I can tell you some story. One day, when I was going some place to place in India, I think it is from Delhi to Mumbai or somewhere, I met one gentleman in railway station. He came to me and having seen this different dress, he asked me, "Who are you?" I told him, "I'm a Buddhist priest from Sri Lanka." I was looking for such a person. He said, "I want to talk with. May I ask you a question?" I said, "Yes, you can." Then he asked, "The birthplace of Buddhism is India. Even though Buddhism is no more in India, we are not practicing that. But your people, you're practicing Buddhism. My question is, what happened to Buddhism in India? Why Buddhism was rejected by its own motherland?" That was his question. Then it is a very hard question to answer. Then I asked him, "May I also ask you a question? He said, yes. Ask me. Normally, the Indians are very happy to listen to the others' talks. Then many people gathered there. Then I asked, what is the what is the best tea in India? No tea. He said, the best tea in India is Darjeeling tea. Darjeeling tea is grown in the mountain area, very cold area. Then he said, Darjeeling tea is the best tea in India. Then I asked, do all the Indians consume Darjeeling? He said, no, we don't have a chance to consume Darjeeling. It is the best tea. So we export it and we just consume the dust. I told, same thing happened to Buddhism. You export good things and you just keep the dust. I just crack a joke there. However, he said, yes, that happens because many like to practice religions what it is very easy to practice. If you go to the God or somebody and ask, give this, me this and that, punish him and do this and that, then if the God is doing the same, then it is easy to practice. Even the Buddhism has given the responsibility to you. So you are responsible for your good and bad and all the things in your life. Then it is only a teaching what you guides. So in Buddhism, there are a lot of practices what helps to have a good life and good family life. Mainly Buddha teaches us until the Nibbana, attaining Nibbana, to practice a good family life, good social life. There is a sutta called Vasala, Vasala Sutta. Vasala means bad, wrong, dirty life. So, if somebody understands what are the components of the life of Vasala, then he should get rid of those things and practice good behavior, good activities. And also, Buddha shows us good qualities of a friend. If a friend in those good qualities, then he becomes Kalyana Mitra. And if a friend is not following that good qualities, then he becomes a Papa Mitra. Then Buddhism shows what kind of friend we should associate with. There, once Buddha says, you should associate a good friend, even whether he blame you in your bad activities. Nidhinanga pavattaran yampasse vajjadasvina niggaiha vading medaving tadisam panditam bhaje. If a friend shows you good direction, you associate him. Sometimes he may use some words makes your mind painful, even though he is a good friend because he directs you into good way, good path. And also, you can see Mangala Sutta. In Mangala Sutta, normally Bahudeva Manusaja, there are gathas and 38 Mangala Karanas. Now we are just talking about it, even though This is the lifestyle. Asevanacha balanang, do not associate with bala. Panditanancha sevana, associate with good people, educated, and those who have good behavior. Pujacha pujaniyanang, respect the respectable people. Then this is said for the children. Then gradually studying and have a good job and prepare a house in a good place, and ultimately it says puttassa loka dhammehi chittang yassana kampati. When you become old, do not shake your mind, do not be unhappy. See, this is a lifestyle. Karaniyametta Sutta, it shows how to behave in ardent, clever, and meaningful life. In this way, all the sutras directs the person into direction of good and direction to the Nibbana. Here, I would like to talk mainly about the family. Family life, the family life has a Buddhist influence, mainly in Sri Lanka and other countries which Buddhism spread. Here, Sigalovada Sutta. In Sigalovada Sutta, Buddha has given the responsibilities of the man and society. The man always should do all the responsibilities to the society, and society also fulfills their responsibilities to the man, duties to the man. It is a very important place, husband and wife's place. Normally, people think the wife should respect the husband. Husband should make some compassion or something, karuna or something towards wife. That is totally wrong. In Buddhism, it is said, the husband should respect. It is said, sammanana. Wife should have compassion to the respecting husband. Here, towards husband, it is said towards husband, wife should make her heart like a mother. Husband should respect her. Sammananaya. What is sammanana? How to respect? It is said when husband talks to wife, he should not even use the name. When they have children, they should use the name of the child. Nandasa mate, Nandasa pite. Even in our all families, they use Putage amma, Duwage amma. Likewise, they should not use even their names. That is respect. That is for respect. Sammananaya, Anomananaya. They should not insult. Some people, some husbands, they just insult their wives without any reason. Then sometimes they suspect. Suspicion is also an insult. Normally, Buddha says respect and not to insult is very important bondage. It makes a bondage of the family. And also anaticharya. Anaticharya means not to commit adultery. Be satisfied with his own wife. It is very important. Buddha says, Chattari tanani naro pamatto upaseyoto paradaru upasevi. Apunyalabi nanikama seyo nindan tatiyang nirayang chatuttam. If somebody does adultery, he collects demerit, and also society also talking with him badly, and also he get a lot of disease and finally goes to hell. Then these good behaviors, actually I have missed two of the two limbs. Another one is Sarya Vasagena, give all wealth to the wife. Normally in our villages, when we were very young, I don't know now what happened to what changes happen in the society. Our fathers collect everything and give it to the mother. Mother is the person who spend money. Mother knows how to spend, and also they keep something for to use in hard time. Then Issariya Vasagena means give all the wealth to the wife, and also Alankara Anupadanena give adornments to the wife. See, Buddha has given and Buddha has understood the mind of a wife. So this these teachings practiced in our society when Buddhism practiced by the people, even though today we don't know what happens to the society. They are not fulfilling these duties to husband and wife. Then sometime many social problems have come up. The divorce rate, normally in Western countries, I heard recently 50% of marriages ends with divorce or separation. In our Asian region, the divorce is very shameful action. Then they thought not to be divorced with any reason. But they did not divorce because they had their family culture, good behavior, and what call ethics, family ethics they had with them. That is the most important thing. Even though now, sometime they are ending with separation, the children are in very much many difficulties. So these good behaviors in the family life they had earlier. That's why the family was very much peaceful place. And also, you know, in our society, Jataka stories helped us to make our society very good and very good culture. Jataka stories. If a person is not good, then people say he's like a Devadatta. He's like a Devadatta, or he's a Porisada. But if somebody is in good conduct, people say, oh, yeah, Bodhisattvik wage. He's just like a Bodhisattva. Then people don't like to become Devadatta. Then they thought to behave in good conduct, good to have a good character, because they like to have their life in that good way. And also our Asian region life is very simple. They had a very contented mind. They did not ask for many things. Nowadays, with open economy, we have disturbed our life with all and every unwanted things also. However, those days, we had a simple life but happier life. I have another question. Do Buddhist countries are wealthy? People have this question, always raising this question. The Buddhist countries are not wealthy. But Mahayana Buddhist countries are wealthy, you know, Japan, Korea, and those countries are wealthy. Even though Theravada Buddhist, many Buddhist countries are not wealthy. Some people think the reason is Buddhism. Sometimes it can be because they are not doing bad jobs. They are not trying to make money with bad activities. That can be. However, then we can ask a question from them. All the non-Buddhist countries are developed. Then this is also we should think. And also you can see in our region, mainly in Sri Lanka, recently there was a discussion about blood donation. In Western countries, they are donating blood with some influential factor, or they have to get something from government or from the people, those who are conducting that blood donation. Even though in Sri Lanka, we are donating blood without asking anything, because we know it is a paramita. Donating blood is a paramita. So dana has influence to the society, and the family life has made with the teachings of the Buddha, and to have simple life. It is also influence of Buddhism, and also the respecting to the teachers and the elders. It is also a practice of Buddhism. And also our parents always think their children should follow their good activities. But in Western, we cannot see like that. They, sometime after 16, they are living sometime alone, sometime without the parents' advice, they are get married. Then sometimes their lives also become very unhappy, even though in Asian region, according to the Buddha's teaching, Buddha says, Patirupena dharena saddhin sanyojanti. The duty of parents should, they should introduce good partner to their children, good partner. That is said as a responsibility of the parents. In Asia, even today, we think this way. So society has a lot of influential factors. I have only taken a little. In India, I said there are a lot of religions, they have lot of religious influential influence to the society. One is Buddhism. Even though in Sri Lanka and Myanmar and Thailand, Buddhism has given very great influence to the society to make them to make their life simple and good and calm and upward path to the Nibbana. I think I have taken 45 minutes here. I just wanted to say something without making you very much tired. And here I have taken few topics to discussion. If you ask some question, I can answer. I like to hand over the hostess the microphone, then conduct the other part of the lecture. Thank you.
අවසරයි අපේ හාමුදුරනේ. Hemantha is here. Shall
Yes.
we have a 5 minutes break?
Yes, of course.
Okay, then the students, you can take 5 minutes break. Now time is say 3:53. So we are going to start the discussion Q&A session at about 4 o'clock. So please be online. අවසරයි අපේ හාමුදුරනේ. Students, please feel free to ask questions.
අවසරයි හාමුදුරනේ. My question is to you, Hamdrone. Since Asian countries such as Thailand, Singapore, the East Asian, including Sri Lanka, which has a rapid developing economy, through this increasing capitalization, most of the societies of these countries have starting to, like, based on some of the urban areas, have started to lose with spiritual morality within family household units. So in order to tackle this spiritual morality problem, how can Buddhism, as in, like, how can Buddhism be more to help to be prominent to solve these issues? For example, like focusing on the family problems and all.
Yes, the question is clear. Actually, according to my point of view, the family life, not only in urban areas, in the villages also, day by day going to bad direction. It is because of this modern technology, and also our governments also do not think what should give and what should not give in the television and media, other media. And also our people don't know what are the essential things and what are not very much essential. According to Buddhism, there are three things. One thing is what you need. The other one is what you want, and the other one is something you are taking it for. It is a luxury item, not it is. Without it you can live. People don't understand this. It is said in Sinhala, avashyata, umana, asha. Avashyata, need. Umana, wants. Asha. But people do not understand what is avashyata. Then always they are running after everything. Then life become very busy, and all the bondage, all the family duties, they keep away, then this thing happen. And also in urban areas, we are also living in Colombo. I can see the many lives has become just like a machine. Then my idea, Buddhism should make some ideal, not using all the very grammatical and very deep teachings, but we should make some format for them to use their day-to-day life. And also nowadays many using this hand phone, what is called mobile phone, and they are always there. They are using that phone. I think 20 hours in a day. Then they are they are destroying their time. Then actually, at least they should understand. They should learn what they should use and what they should not use. In our campus, once when I am teaching in Jawadarapura, both the boy and girl, they are sitting in same bench. They are actually they have very close, but both are using 2 phones and they are isolated there. They are isolated in their phone. Then see, then our people don't know how to use this technology. And also in the home, they do many Indian dramas come to their home. It makes their lifestyle very much busy and sometimes very much unhappy, and also it teaches them unwanted lessons. I think we must think from the beginning. We must make our television programs and our education is also very it is also commercialized. Now we are thinking only how we get something, not how to make the society good and how to make the peaceful society. If we don't find answers to these questions, I think I don't know the date of the burn the society is very close.
I'm a non-Buddhist like I've read in terms like where being a woman was not a first option for many when it comes to rebirth, and how is it applicable now?
No, actually our Buddha also became Bodhisattva. First he was a lady. Then there is an idea in the society, ladies cannot become Buddhahood. Ladies can, but not only the ladies, men also cannot become Buddha. First of all, they must become Bodhisattvas. So in the society, without lady, how can be men's? And then ladies and men's are the the components of the society. And also my idea, this is not a problem here now. Everybody can accumulate good karma, and there are arahant nuns, they can obtain nibbana, but there is a difference in between both ladies and the man and woman. We can see that, and also to become Buddha in Theravada tradition should be a man, even though in Mahayana tradition ladies also can become Buddhahood. However, in Buddhist teachings, lady itself, she has the woman itself, she has some weaknesses in her physical life. Without that, we are not giving, or we are not අපි අය අපිට පටවන්නේ නැහැ කිසිම නරක දෙයක්. ඒ නිසා so Buddhism does not give what Buddhism does not give new weakness to her. If she has weakness, it is her biological factor. Even though Buddhism does not say anything because of she is a lady, she should get this and that. That is, Buddhism gives equal right to woman and man both.
So according to your point, you said about family planning. So Eastern cultures have much better family planning compared to the Western countries. But in the modern context, aren't there some adaptations we see in Western countries which have improved their family life in terms of religious practices and cultural things, which we don't see in our perspective in our Asian context? For example, counseling and like living together, because in terms of living together, if first the couple finds out if they can live together and then they get married. So I'm not saying we should have living together, but I'm saying like aren't there some practices which are seen in Western cultures which have improved the family life and reduced divorces?
Yes, actually, they are finding the solution what they have made wrong. They have first make it wrong, and then they find the solution. Even though we are also now practicing, we are not practicing our religions, especially Buddhist. You can see Islam, the practitioners of Islam, they try to practice their religion very correctly according to the teachings of Quran. Christians somewhat. Buddhism, Buddhist, I think as a Buddhist monk, I can say 25% like to follow that 25 also in they also have some choice. However, if we follow Buddhism very well, or not only the Buddhism, their own religion very well, then many family problems are not coming up. They are not materialized. However, Westerners, I can remember one interview with Mahatma Gandhi. Oh yes, Mahatma Gandhi. One Western journalist came to Mahatma Gandhi and asked, shall we talk about Western culture? He says, that's a good idea. Western civilization. He asked, shall we talk about Western civilization? He says, that's a good idea. Civilization to the West is a good idea, only an idea, he says. It's an idea. But it is not an idea for us. It is already there. But the thing is, we are not practicing. However, according to the current problems, we should have some solutions like counseling, but we should not be hurried to introduce that living together or something like that. And also we have we have to think in these nuclear families, we have to think some new introductions to the society. Nowadays we think the elders homes are we criticize that. Normally we criticize the elders homes, even though some elders in the homes, in their own homes, sometimes they are only getting suffered, and also they are so they are just doing the job of the servants. Sometimes in the elders homes, they have good life than they get in this nuclear family society. So we must think some, but I don't say mama kiyanne me monada elders homes පටන් ගන්න ඕන කියලා. ඒක නෙමෙයි හොඳ. පවුල ජීවත් වෙන එකයි හොඳ. We should keep our elders in our home and we should keep them with us, even though there are some problems. Some are not in Sri Lanka, some have gone to some abroad countries. They are away from the country. So if they are getting suffer, if they are doing all the ගෙවල් වල සේවකයන්ගේ වැඩ කර කර ඉන්නවට වඩා ඒගොල්ලන්ට හොඳ ආගම දහම ආධාරමින් හොඳ ජීවිතයක් ගෙවන්න සමහරවිට සිස්ටම් ගම ඇතුලේ හදන්න පුළුවන්. We can make some places in the home, say in the village, but we are always thinking වැඩිහිටි නිවාසය වට යවන්න එපා, වට යවන්න දරුවෝ හොඳ නැහැ කියන තැන අපි හිටියට සමහර වෙලාවට මට හිතෙනවා වැඩිහිටි නිවාසවල ගෙවල් වලට වඩා හොඳට සැප පහසුවෙන් සහ ආගම දහමට ළඟව ඒ වැඩිහිටියෝ ඉනවයි කියලා.
අවසරයි හම්බුනේ.
Yes.
I saw this in a foreign news article and I wasn't sure if it was true, but it said that in Sri Lanka, bhikkhunis were denied identity papers. So if it is true, I wanted to know like why it's like that, why bhikkhunis aren't given national identity papers.
Yes, actually Bhikkhuni Sasana is not accepted in Sri Lanka by religious affairs. The Department of Religious Affairs do not accept the Bhikkhuni Sasana. That is the problem. I think the word is not important. So if she is spending a life of clergy or some religious life like Meheni Nanse or Bhikkhuni Nanse, they should be should be treated as clergy. Then my idea, this is a part of our Buddhist dispensation, Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, Upasika. So whether they are Bhikkhunis or not, they should give the identity card. If not, they cannot proceed their education, their other activities.
Thank you, Hamdrene.
Avasarයි Hamdrene, I have another question. Should the state and should politics and religion mix? Basically, not even just our country, but in any country, should politics and religion mix together? And should it be influencing on the laws that they come up with and the policies that the country comes up with?
Actually, my idea, religion and you're asking politics, not that is politics, the system of government governing system, I think it should be separated. should be separated. Really, the religious leaders can make some influence to the society to make good good governance, a good government. Even though law and the religion, the law and governance system should not be according to the religion. In some countries, Muslim countries, their life, religion and government and everything according to their Quran or some their religious teachings. Even though my idea, even Buddhism, Sri Lanka will be a Buddhist country until the Buddhists are here. When Buddhists one day vanish, then Buddhism is not here, and this will not be a Buddhist country further. So this will not be no more Buddhist country. So my idea, religion should help the society to make it good, but government and religion should be separate. I don't believe the මේකට කට්ටි ගහයි බණි මේ මොකද්ද බෞද්ධ රාජ්‍යයක් කියලා කියන්නේ. ඒක රාජ්‍ය බෞද්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි රාජ්‍ය පාලන ප්‍රතිපත්තිය, the governing system should be a system what the country needs. It is not if we try to make that, it makes lot of problems. මිනිස්සු බෞද්ධ වෙන්න ඕනේ. මිනිස්සු ආගමික වෙන්න ඕනේ. ආගම ඇතුලේ මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ගුණධර්ම හැදෙන්න ඕනේ. හැබැයි ඒක it should not we should not force the government to do this and that according to religious point of view. And also you can see judges, normally judges, they give capital punishment. The president do not sign there because judge is according to the law and president is according to the religion or majority. Then this the conflict is there. So we must අපිට එක්ක ආගම හදාගන්න එක්ක නීතිය හදාගන්න ඕනේ රටට ගැලපෙන්න, එක්ක රටක හදාගන්න ඕනේ නීතියට ගැලපෙන්න. If first we should think අපිට හිතන්න වෙනවා මේ දෙක පටලවාගෙන හැමදාම අපි දිගට යනවාද කියන්නේ. බලන්න නඩුකාරයා මරණීය දඬුවම දෙනවා ජනාධිපති අස්සම් කරන්න. මං කියන්නේ අස්සම් කරන්න කියලා නෙමෙයි. මරණීය දඬුවම දෙන්නේ මොකටද? අස්සම් කරන්නනේ. එකම දෙයකින් නඩුකාරයා පව් සිද්ධ කරගන්නවා, ජනාධිපති පින් සිද්ධ කරගන්නවා. ඒ නිසා ආගමයි නීතියයි ආගමයි රාජ්‍යය අතර තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ. ඒ නිසා රාජ්‍ය ප්‍රතිපත්තිය ලෝකේ වරද්දගෙන තියෙන දෙයක්. මේ එංගලන්තෙත් ඕක තියෙනවා, ඇමරිකාවෙත් ඕක තියෙනවා, හැම රටකම ඕක තියෙනවා. මිනිස්සු මේ ආගම කියන එක අරගෙන ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා සමහර අනවශ්‍ය තැන් වලට.
Students, I think that you have asked a lot of questions. If you have more questions, you can send it to our common email, urakedu@gmail.com. So, one of our students is waiting to deliver a vote of thanks.
අවසරයි අපේ හාමුදුරනේ. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the students of the short course on cultural linkages towards an Asian ideology. First, I would like to thank our lecturer, Venerable Professor Madhugoda Abetissa Thero, for sharing his time and knowledge with us and for delivering this lecture amidst a busy schedule. Your address set the tone for this course by clearly indicating the influence, of Buddhism on Asian culture. Thank you, Venerable Professor, for being with us today. We are blessed to have you contribute to this course. Next, I wish to thank Dr. Hemantha Premaratne and any other staff and personnel of KDU involved in bringing these lectures together. Thank you very much. Last but not least, I thank all participants from our university for joining us today. Your participation has made this lecture a successful event, and I believe it has provided you with an insight into the political issues and challenges in Asia. To conclude, let me once more express my gratitude to Venerable Professor Madhukura Abetisa Thero for delivering today's lecture. Thank you.